So we'll start as usual with motivation and posture, and then we will have some quiet time with some basic awareness practice. And after that, we'll look at some verses as we continue our investigation of chapter 5 of Shantideva's great text. And then we'll have some discussion. And we need to finish by about latest 10 past 8, quarter past 8. So hopefully that will give us enough time. Sugar. Oh, okay. Very kind. Okay, so posture, I think we're all familiar, but still good to be reminded that our daily life often leads us to engage in all kinds of twisted and strange postures. And we're often, of course, in a rush, so that can be problematic. And often we are doing 2 or 3 things at a time as we multitask our way through the day. And this can also be disconcerting, because it means we're not really paying attention properly to one thing. Of course, we have excuses all the time. We don't have time to do any one thing properly very often. So here's a chance we have to sit, slow down, pay attention. And I'm immediately going to contradict and be a total hypocrite as I take the tea bag out of this cup and have a sip. But of course, my intention is good, because I don't want to go yawn too much during this session. It doesn't look good. And it's been quite hectic the last few days, so excuse me. So with the posture, upright is of course very good if we can manage it. The energy will flow well. There's a sense of, there can be a sense of ease and dignity, a sense of being properly, planted on the earth, on the ground, like a wonderful, like a tree, like a good tree with good roots, healthy roots, which go down into the ground and, are able to then draw the nutrients from the soil to make a strong and useful tree, which can then provide so much benefit for so many beings, from tiny insects that we could hardly see to birds, squirrels, small animals, and also to human beings. And if the teachings are to be believed, then also to a whole host of beings that most of us cannot even see, various spirits and so forth, that may also get some kind of nourishment, sustenance, shelter from such as a tree guardians, if you like. So that's why we sit properly, because it gives us that sense of rootedness. However, it's also done in a kind of light way. It's not heavy in the sense of being, what shall I say? We're not trying to make a big deal out of it either. You know what I mean by a big deal? Getting a little uptight and almost possessive about it, my good posture, and being a little bit self-conscious and proud of one's good posture, especially if one is comparing it with other people who don't seem to be so adept at it. So there's a light touch to everything. Because remember, everything the Buddha taught was to help deconstruct this heavy sense of I, me, mine, grasping onto that, which he said was the cause of all of our pain, all of our misery. Grasping at a self, some kind of solid inherent self. So as we sit, there's a lightness to it, but grounded at the same time. Because as human beings with this body, we need proper base, proper grounding. We can't pretend to be hovering in midair, which is where our mind sometimes is, up in the castle of our thoughts, totally out of touch with our feelings and the earth element and the feeling element. So here we are coming back to the body, coming back to the sensations and feelings. As part of our process. I was going to say mission, but mission is not quite the word. It's a process. Mission is too deliberate, sounds too much like a conversion exercise. But here we are simply making friends with what we are, what we are right now. Not what we hope to be or want to be, but what's going on right now. That's what we're working with. So feel the sense of elongation in the body as we sit like this. Shoulders relaxed, head slightly tilted downwards. Take the strain off your neck and shoulders. Relaxation in the muscles of the face. Arms slightly apart from your torso. And relaxed, not stiff. Not thrust out like sticks, but relaxed. Arms, hands in the lap or on the thighs and knees. Fingers, again, not tense. Shoulders level. Of course, make sure your soles of your feet, or at least your legs, have a good connection with either the ground, if you're sitting on the chair that way, or on your cushion or sofa, if you're sitting in the cross-legged or half cross-legged posture. Then in the tradition, it's advised, although I find this particular advice difficult, it's advised to keep your tongue touching the upper palate behind the teeth. This is said to stop the excess flow of saliva, and it also completes a particular subtle circuit of energy within the body. So if you're used to that or can experiment with that, please go ahead. So the posture is one of lightness, but also confidence, groundedness. And since the front of the body is open, which is what we present to the world, what we present to others is the front of our body. If we turn our backs, it's considered rude or shutting someone out, not wanting to communicate. But with this open posture, the front of the body open, exposed, vulnerable, we're letting it be known that we wish to communicate in a straightforward, heartfelt manner with others. So why we should do that is not necessarily obvious. We might think that spirituality is about letting go of our connections with others and being very pious and holy and not getting involved with the world or with other people. But here in the Mahayana, of course, solitude is also highly recommended, certainly for periods in one's life. But the emphasis is on working with others, radiating a basic sanity that will benefit others and working with others, helping others who are suffering from the poverty mentality and total confusion. So our job, if you like, is to work with others, help them, relieve them of the burden of their confusion and misery in whatever way helps them, using a vast variety of skillful methods. So we can help people through personal conversations, with touch, with all manner of arts and crafts, theater, film, drama, literature, poetry, healing, arts, and the dharma. And for many, we simply need to give the basics: food, shelter, clothing, comfort, sense of security. We need to give all of these with the sense of open-heartedness, sense of loving kindness. Recognizing everybody's wish to be happy, cared for, and recognizing also how, this is especially important, how others are so kind and have helped one since beginningless time, according to Lord Buddha. We have been helped beginninglessly because our mind is beginningless. So beginningless help from others. It's rather a mind-boggling thought, isn't it? It's quite mind-boggling enough to think that maybe one's parents, especially the mother, was caring for us ever since we were conceived. But Lord Buddha is saying that it goes far beyond that, because, it's beginningless. Life to life, the help, the benefit we have received from others. So as Shantideva says somewhere in his text, is this life just going to be a useless kind of life where all it has done really is give pain to my mother at the time of my birth? Is that the meaning of life, to give pain to my mother? And then, in other words, not do anything beneficial in my life for others, be a selfish, self-centered person, thinking mainly or largely about me and my problems, etc. Is that going to be our life? Shantideva asks us this. It's a continuous theme, stated or hinted at throughout the text. What are we doing with our life? So spend a few minutes thinking, reflecting on this. What are you doing with your life? Is it being used to bring some benefit to the world? Or is it largely self-centered, securing one's own position, one's own security, one's own status, and so forth? Please spend some time on this. It's very important. Okay. So we can encourage ourselves. We can remind ourselves that we are in an interdependent relationship with others. We depend on others, they depend on us. So how wonderful it would be if our life could hold some meaning, some real meaning for others, be of benefit for others. And that will also make us feel that we are using our life in a worthwhile way. So that's also something that is very human. To be needed, to be wanted, to be able to help others. This is very human. Sign of humanity, one might say. And before the onset of, industrial revolution, mechanization, and so forth, as we know, community participation, working as a group with others, cooperating with others was much more emphasized. Anyway, be that as it may, please generate strong motivation that by engaging in this session together, meditating, reflecting, discussing, and so forth, may it bring more awareness of one's connections with others, one's responsibility actually for the happiness not only of oneself, but of others, and one's ability to bring benefit to others. We have that ability. If we have the intention, then it's possible. course, no intention, then it won't happen. So I think just as my mother, father, or somebody anyway nurtured me, kept me safe enough and fed me and cleaned me and educated me in order that I can become an adult with at least some ability to look after myself and even care for others. Since this has been, given to me by beings, then the least I can do is to, again, the terminology is not wonderful, but at least I can repay the kindness of others. Makes sense to naturally wish to. Naturally to return the kindness. That's natural. Doesn't need to be very contrived or forced. And according to the teachings, we can actually attain the state of fully evolved human being, state of a Buddha, and then have tremendous ability to be of great benefit to other people and animals and any kind of being. We have a lot more skill and ability to benefit. So that can be also our aspiration, to be of great benefit by attaining a fully evolved state in which there's no confusion about how to engage with and benefit others. No second thoughts. No clumsiness. No holding back. No unwholesome self-consciousness. Spontaneous activity for others. So in order to engage in that, just think this doesn't happen automatically. One has to engage in a process of listening, reflecting, meditating, and so forth. So we'll begin the actual practice. Up to now, it's also been practice, but more the preparation, one might say. So now we can engage in the quiet sitting practice, which will help us also to see very closely and clearly, maybe, what's going on in our minds and in our bodies. Because up to now, things may be very theoretical, very academic. We may have read a lot, heard a lot, but did we bother to actually sit and be still and relaxed, but also very attentive? Did we ever bother to do that? Maybe not. So now's our chance to engage in a process which has been used by countless practitioners of not just Buddhism, of course, but all the spiritual traditions for thousands of years. And there's really no other way to go deeper in the practice of sitting meditation. This is the main way. We can pretend we can use all sorts of other methods, but if we don't have this method, it's all a bit up in the air, a bit tricky. So make sure your posture is still correct, in the sense it's balanced, upright, sense of stillness, sense of relaxation, of course, because we're not here to make ourselves even more uptight and upset, but a state also of being very, very aware, very alert. So we use the breath as our main object of focus, because it's natural, it's there all the time. In-breath and the out-breath. And when the mind gets carried away, as it will be, by thoughts, memories, plans, and so forth, recognize that if you can. Let it go. And gently but firmly come back to the breath. What do we mean by come back to the breath? We mean the sensation of the breath as it enters and leaves your body through the nostrils. Your nostrils are blocked, then through your mouth. And if it's hard to watch or be aware of the sensation at your nostrils, then bring your attention to the perhaps more easily discernible movement of your abdomen as you breathe in and out. Make sure there's no, let go of any tension around your mouth, your jaws, your eyes, relaxed. Relax the muscles around the eyes. Imagine the tension is leaving your body as you breathe out. It's dissolving into space. Very calm, sense of clarity, and a sense of kindness towards oneself, which will then naturally radiate outwards towards others. Like a perfume, see, if you have lovely perfume which you've applied on your body, it will naturally at some point, and which is the point of applying it after all, it will naturally radiate outwards and give pleasant sensation to others. So a natural sense of calm, clarity, and kindness radiates outwards. So be aware of the breath. So we'll sit quietly for 5 or 6 minutes. Just remember to pay attention, and when the mind wanders, bring it back gently to the breath, but in a calm and non-tense way, in a relaxed way. And if there are sounds and sensations, they can be included in the meditation. we don't need to fixate 100% on the breath. That's a little bit fanatical almost. But the breath is the main object, but not necessarily 100%. Because there's a lot going on. And we can be aware in a panoramic sort of way. Take a few minutes break if you need to stretch, stand. Since we inhabit our body, the body needs to stretch, some relief. I hope everybody joining us on Zoom are well. Okay, so now let us look at a few verses from Shantideva. Many of these verses are such that we could spend a long time discussing and, of course, reflecting on them, as we are supposed to actually listen, reflect, meditate, not just rush through it. And thank goodness Shantideva could never be, well, one never knows what could happen nowadays, but you can't really check how well we are absorbing Shantideva in a multiple choice format. You're not going to get 100%. We're not going to get 100 out of 100 in Shantideva test, okay? Because the Shantideva test will not be, asking us to, to state, oh, is this a correct version of verse blah, blah, whatever. A test on Shantideva would be, okay, in the last 24 hours, have we been watching our mind, as in verse 40, with the utmost effort, have I been checking to see that the crazed elephant of my mind is not wandering off, but is bound to the great pillar of thinking of the Dharma? That would be the kind of question we would have in our old-fashioned examination of Shantideva. So It's hard to get 100% in that kind of test. And of course, that's a ridiculous way to check. Anyway, I'm just making a comment there on what is considered successful nowadays, and actually which is not connected with listening, reflecting, meditating, not connected with going deeply into something and making it part of our life, our experience. So verse 40 is a very seminal verse in chapter 5. As is the next verse, those who strive by all means for concentration should not wander off, even for a moment, by thinking, how is my mind behaving? They should closely analyze their mind. Do we do that? We'd got as far as verse 45 yesterday, not yesterday, Thursday, I guess. Thursday, yeah, Thursday. Doesn't seem so long ago in one way, but it also seems quite a long time ago in another. So that verse was very interesting. If I happen to be present while a senseless conversation is taking place, or if I happen to see some kind of spectacular show, I should abandon attachment towards it. Is this saying that actually we could take part in a senseless conversation so long as we're not attached to it? What do you think? What is a senseless conversation? How do we define senseless? If I visit an old person who's very lonely in hospital or at home, and I engage in conversation with them, some people might think it might be senseless. You know, we're discussing what kind of tea they like, how they like it made, what football team they support, how their team is doing. Is that senseless? I mean, it's not discussing emptiness or compassion. It's not discussing the stages of the Bodhisattva path. It's not discussing, you know, chapter 5 of Shantideva. So is it senseless? We can think about that. But we should abandon attachment towards senseless conversation. If we have an idea of the 4 unwholesome activities of speech, lying, harsh speech, divisive speech, and idle gossip, then if we understand that a bit more, then perhaps that helps also. But given Buddhism's emphasis on intention, that a karmic action is defined actually by its intention largely, what's the intention behind it, then it gives us some idea of what is senseless, what is not senseless. Depends on our motivation as well. If a baby is crying, then a mother, we're talking about a very young baby. She can't talk, you know, she can't give her child the latest, you know, WhatsApp wisdom on how to have a meaningful day or something, right? The mother will make cooing noises and, you know, baby talk. Is that senseless? In one way, it's senseless, doesn't make any sense. You know, I can't imitate a mother talking to her baby. Maybe some of you can. Some of you who are mothers can remember, or if you can remember how your mother spoke to you. That could be called senseless in one way. But if it makes the baby happy and feel, you know, secure and loved, then is it senseless? Anyway, now the next verse is very interesting. Very interesting. Verse 46. If for no reason, again, no good reason or no reason. Anyway, if for no reason I start digging the earth, picking at the grass, or drawing patterns on the ground, then by recalling the advice of the Buddhas, I should immediately stop out of fear. Wow. What's the other translation? Would somebody here like to read? Someone who has the other version? Navinji?
Patnakara translation. And if you find you're grubbing in the soil, or pulling up the grass, or tracing idle patterns on the ground, remembering the precepts of the blissful one, in fear, restrain yourself at once.
What was the first line again?
And if you find you are grubbing in the soil.
Okay. It doesn't have for no reason in that, does it? Okay. The point is, we are so, I guess, if I look at myself, I'm so distracted, so restless. I'm always wanting to do something with my fingers or my feet or my nose or my, stuff something in my mouth, I'm always doing this. It's kind of non-stop activity virtually. Even in our sleep, my sleep, I guess I twitch, and have dreams and change position. There's this constant need to be doing something and to be kind of somehow distracted. It's not enough to be still and, what shall I say? Yeah, to be still and content with being absolutely just calm and clear and still. You know what I'm saying? Can anyone relate to that? If you put me in a meadow where there's grass and I'm sitting there, I will start picking on the grass, actually. Unless I'm so sweet, leading a meditation, then I'll be more careful. But the natural thing is to start, doing something. And if you're not moving the hands or feet or the mouth, then the mind is whirring around. Shantideva is saying that that's dangerous. You should remember the advice of the Buddhas and stop. Because who knows where that will lead? Before you know it, you've uprooted a whole mound of earth. You've disturbed maybe a lot of ants or other insects. You're just wantonly destroying a microhabitat that other creatures is their home, it's like an earthquake coming in their home. As well as distracting our mind, as well as, making us not able to focus on anything properly because we're just doing so many other things with our body. We're bored, so we start just doing something, which may not be that useful. And before we know it, we may have, made a mess of somebody else's, I don't know, table or wall or whatever. Of course, tasteful, intelligent graffiti is something else. There might be some very intelligent graffiti on walls in many places, but here he's not talking about that. Whenever I have the desire to move my body or to say something, first of all, I should examine my mind and then, with steadiness, act in the proper way. This is tough, right? Remember, again, of course, he's talking to monks in one of the greatest universities that ever existed in the world. So I guess, and also he's talking from a Buddhist perspective, from a Buddhist perspective, to people who are trying to really fine-tune their minds and develop deep realizations, many of them, which requires calming the mind, restraining the sense organs, restraining all of this movement, inner, outer movement of body and mind. Even a great artist or a scientist has to do that, to do anything properly. You can't be moving all the time. You can't be distracted all the time. Even to be a good or great footballer, you have to be present. You have to have a sense of the ball, where your other team players are, how to kick the ball, how much pressure, how fast to kick it. If you want to kick a good, through ball to someone to make a quick counterattack, it needs skill, it needs attention. Of course, there's a lot of movement there. But what I'm saying is we need to really pay attention to what the body is doing. Even just to be a good footballer, of course. But football is interesting, actually. Anything can be interesting to watch with a certain way of looking at it. You can have incredible skill leading up to a goal, right? And you say, wow. And then the players act like children. They run to the corner of the pitch, slide on the ground on their knees, disturb the grass, beat their chests, do little, make the crowd go wild. And then their teammates come and hug them. And then another person comes and hugs them. And they all have a big kind of love fest, And one feels, these adults, yeah, maybe okay. Maybe it's the only kind of catharsis they have in that way in their otherwise quite difficult lives, I'm sure. Their hard training and so forth. But sometimes one thinks, yeah, is it really that appropriate? But this is, I'm asking a question. I'm not trying to give a moralistic injunction. Anyway, with steadiness, act in the proper way. And then there's a lot of verses, 8 or 10 verses, or 6 or 7 verses, with a refrain, the last line refrain. Whenever there's attachment in my mind and whenever there's the desire to be angry, I shouldn't do anything or say anything, but remain like a piece of wood. Yeah. Does that make sense? Remain like a piece of wood or a stone, but he uses the example of wood. I want to say something very clever or sarcastic, put somebody down, or show how clever I am or how knowledgeable I am, and start quoting, whatever Kalidas or Shakespeare or whatever. So I should think, why am I doing this? Just shut up, be like a piece of wood. Pieces of wood that, they don't say or do anything. Neutral. Whenever I have distracted thoughts, the wish to verbally belittle others, feelings of self-importance or self-satisfaction, when I have the intention to describe the faults of other people, pretension, the thought to deceive others, whenever I am eager for praise or have the desire to blame others, whenever I have the wish to speak harshly and cause disputes, at all such times I should remain like a piece of wood. Politics would suffer, wouldn't it, if people followed this advice? Where would politics be? Either politics with a big P or a small p would come to an end. Whenever I desire material gain, honor, fame, whenever I seek attendance or a circle of friends, and when in my mind I wish to be served by others, at all these times I should remain like a piece of wood. Hope this is not too much for us. Just a few more verses, then we can have some discussion. Whenever I have the wish to decrease or to stop working for others, and the desire to pursue my welfare alone, if motivated by such thoughts, a wish to say something occurs, at these times I should remain like a piece of wood. This happens a lot in my life anyway. I often give the example of buying a bar of chocolate at Tushita Center, and due to my wish not to share it with others, I hide it in my pocket or somewhere with that intention. Because if I see someone, if they see the chocolate, then I will feel I have to share it with them. And I didn't want to share it with them, with anyone. I wanted to just eat it myself. So this Shantideva is discouraging this kind of behavior. Yeah, but we do this in all sorts of ways. That's just a small example. But I guess we do all sorts of things just for oneself, neglecting others. Whenever I have impatience, laziness, cowardice, shamelessness, or the desire to talk nonsense, if thoughts of partiality arise, at these times too I should remain like a piece of wood. So having in this way, he says, examine their minds for disturbing conceptions and for thoughts that strive for meaningless things, the courageous bodhisattvas should hold their minds steady through the application of remedial forces. Like the one just mentioned, to stay like a piece of wood is one kind of remedial force. It's not a deep answer to the question, to the problem, but it's an immediate, short-term antidote to the problems, to those issues. It's not eradicating the ignorance from the root, obviously, but it's helping in the moment to stop saying or doing or thinking something harmful or unwholesome. So what to do? In a nutshell, being very resolute and faithful, steady, respectful, polite, with a sense of shame, apprehensive and peaceful, I should strive to make others happy. There's a lot in that verse. Sense of shame means I should feel ashamed if I start engaging in an action which is unworthy of me as a human being, or as a, in this case, a monk or whatever. You know, one should feel if one is doing something inappropriate, one should feel a sense of shame. Apprehensive. Well, if one studied karma, the law of cause and effect, well, it can make one very apprehensive of engaging in unwholesome action, recognizing that actions have consequences. And if one has faith, of course, if one has a lot of faith and understanding of what we mean by Buddha, then one can also feel that, you know, you may think no one can see what you're doing, but the enlightened mind of the Buddhas can see what one is doing. You know? So one should feel apprehensive and ashamed if one is doing something unworthy, you know, or something harmful or deceitful, you know, and peaceful. We should, with a sense of shame, apprehensive, and peaceful. So that means with a peaceful mind, with a steady mind, with a calm mind. How do we have a calm mind? Well, it has to be tamed, doesn't it? How do we tame our mind? Through thinking, reflecting, meditating. No other way, actually. Of course, there are other ways now, tranquilizers, drugs, but that's not a way that's recommended in the spiritual traditions. Although for deeply disturbed people, we cannot say categorically that a medicine or drug should not be used. It could be a lifesaver for many people as a temporary recourse. So one doesn't want to make hard and fast sort of fundamentalist rules here. But basically the way to make the mind peaceful is to reflect on the Dharma and to meditate and practice the basic, shamatha and so forth. And I should strive to make others happy. I don't know if you've noticed, you probably have, but those who, in a straightforward, healthy way in their lives, make others happy, they tend to be happy people themselves. You may have noticed. If they're doing it right, if they're doing it skillfully. Not doing it in order to get others to say thank you or think they're great or give them a medal, but naturally, with a good intention, benefiting others, those people tend to be very happy. One more verse, because this helps us. Yeah, this verse is very relevant. Verse 56. I shouldn't be disheartened by all the whims of the childish who are in discord with one another. I should know these to arise in their minds due to disturbing conceptions and therefore be kind towards them. Why do others misbehave? Why do others cause problems for each other? Because of disturbing thoughts, disturbing conceptions in the mind. Because they're sick. Because we are sick. That's why it happens. Because no one would deliberately do something to make themselves unhappy. But beings are doing this all the time. So it must be because there is something unwholesome which is working in our minds. And of course, Buddhism says we have a lot that is unwholesome in our minds right now. The deluded, states of mind, disturbing emotions, afflictive emotions, klesh in Sanskrit. So it's like a doctor, as we've said before many times. Sick people come in front of a good doctor, he feels kindness towards them. He wants to help them. Doesn't get angry at them because they have the sickness. That would be stupid. So we don't get angry at people who are misbehaving because we know they are temporarily the slaves of their disturbing conceptions. They are not in charge of their minds at that point. So we shouldn't be disheartened by all the strange behavior of other people. We've said this many times, but we need to hear this again and again. I do anyway. People will misbehave. To take the football analogy, if you're a good player, people will foul you. People will kick you. People will trip you up. People will say nasty things to you. Cricketers know this too. You're standing there trying to concentrate, there's a good bowler. The people close to the wicket in the slips, they will say things. What's it called?
Sledging.
Huh? Sledging. They'll say things. They'll try to distract you. They'll maybe abuse you. They'll say all sorts of things to try and distract you. So you have to say, well, that's cricket, That's Australia, that's Australian cricketers or whatever. Maybe Indian cricketers do it too, I don't know. We'll have to ask later, Pradeep ji, who is our cricketing expert here, ex-cricketing sports correspondent for Hindustan Times. Sorry, Pradeep ji, I had to say that. Hope you don't mind. So people are going to misbehave. So be kind to them. Doesn't mean you accept what they're doing. Being kind means don't get angry with them. Try and help them, if you can. If you can't, then that's fine too. Just let it go. But don't harm them. Don't answer their abuse with, more abuse from our side. Because people are going to behave strangely. Don't we behave strangely sometimes? If someone took a video of us, God, it would be embarrassing. 24-hour CCTV about, on us. And we don't know it's happening. This is the thing. We don't know it's being done. Wow, that could be very embarrassing. So we have a lot of whims. We have a lot of strange behavior. So why can't we expect others to have strange behavior? They will. So I should know these to arise in their minds due to disturbing conceptions. So this is very fundamental dharma. 2 points of dharma come there: interdependence and kindness. As Dalai Lama says, Buddha's slogan is dependent arising. Things happen due to causes and conditions. And so that's the theory, or that's the philosophical underpinning, and the action is kindness. Of course, bodhicitta, kindness. Okay, let's have discussion. Unmute. What is the fourth besides lying, divisive speech, idle gossip? Yeah, harsh speech is the fourth. How can we forget harsh speech? We're using it all the time, aren't we? Maybe not none of our esteemed members here. Well, that's, you see, what I just said was not good speech, kind of sarcastic. Not good. Not good what I just said, actually. Although I wasn't saying it with a nasty frame of mind, it's still not that good. And actually, once somebody complained to the director of Tushita about my speech, saying that I was being very sarcastic in some talk, and it really disturbed them. I was trying to think what I said, and and they didn't appreciate my sense of humor also. So what can one do? One stay like a piece of wood, just sit here. Then people can do what they like, What to do? One has to be very careful with speech. Very careful. Nitya. Yeah, hold on. Have I unmuted people? Yes. Hold on. Yeah. Boliye Nitya. Yes. Can't hear you for some reason. Why would that be?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So there were two things that I wanted to bring up in discussion. One is about remaining like a piece of wood, because
yes.
I think I've tried some version of this, but it felt more repressive than compassionate to myself if I try to remain, sort of detached emotionally from whatever is coming up in response or in reaction to something or someone. So I don't know, are these some of the higher practices of meditation and analytical meditation? Because I don't really know how to do this as a regular human being.
Very good point. Very good point. I don't think he's asking us to stifle or to push back an emotion so much. But I think what Shantideva may be saying is that don't act or speak on the spur of the moment through impulse, especially if one is irritated or angry. Don't do that. At least for a little while, be like a piece of wood. I'm not saying remain like a piece of wood for a long time, I don't think. But initially, be like a piece of wood so that what comes out of our mouth or what our hands and legs start doing isn't something that's going to harm others or create a problem. I think like that. But you're right. I mean, all of this is like a tightrope, isn't it? All of this feels sometimes like a tightrope. To balance it is not easy. When am I, suppressing something? Yeah. Where is the balance between suppression and acting out? That can't be spoken of easily in language. We have to work that out for ourselves. I don't think I can't use speech to define that. I mean, I'm sure some people could, but for me, it wouldn't be easy. There seems to be a delicate balance. So being like a piece of wood is simply, it's what's it called in English? It's a metaphor, right? Is it a metaphor or an analogy? It's a metaphor.
Being like a rock. People say being like a rock.
Being like a rock, yes. Also, rock has other connotations of being insensitive, but it also has that connotation of being a support. He was like a rock to me, At a difficult period of my life, that person was like a rock, steady, unmoving, which is what one needed. So yeah, whatever metaphor, whatever is useful for one. Of course, Shantideva, like the Buddha, he's also asking us to use our own intelligence, right? Buddha's always asking us to do that. He's never asking us to totally accept everything that is said without reflecting. Isn't this meant to make us think about the way we behave and speak and so forth, and therefore, like a piece of wood, it isn't to be taken literally all the time, is it? Of course, literally it can't be. We're not pieces of wood, but we have to think about what it actually means, us. So it's very different for someone who, say, talks too much or someone who speaks very little. That this example would, work out in different ways for different people, I think. But this is good. It makes one think about it. Metaphor. Thank you, Sujit. Yes. Priyanka, Aurora to everyone. Be still. Be still. Yeah, that's a good idea. I guess everyone's moving, is it? Is that why, Priyanka, you're saying that? Be still. Ah, okay. You're saying that to be like a piece of wood means to be still. That's a very good point. Very good.
Right.
Be still. Yeah. Be still for a while. See what wisdom comes up when one isn't impulsively reacting. Yeah. If one's still and aware and attentive, maybe things happen that don't happen. We are constantly searching for some reaction.
Right. When I read about Lord Buddha, what I noticed was that he really meditated on sea and how the sea or the ocean behaves.
Sorry, he
And
meditated on what?
meditated on sea or the ocean, the
Ah,
water.
yeah.
So that was his focus of meditation. And
Sometimes, not always.
okay. So I guess just like, uh, and he looked at suffering from that angle, just like the waves or the tides
Ah,
rise up
okay.
and goes down.
Mhm.
And this is how we should be. We know that suffering would come and go, but we should stay still like the water.
I see. Yeah, that's also interesting, useful. Yes. Thank you. Yeah, recognizing the waves are simply on the surface and deep down it's peaceful and still. Yeah. And up to now, at least in the ocean, it's very beautiful. A lot of beauty down there.
I'm reminded of something that Eckhart Tolle has said about this that may be similar, which is he advocates in a emotionally charged situation to pause, to just take a couple of minutes or a couple of seconds to pause, because if you're able to catch your thoughts or your feelings in those few seconds, then your mind doesn't go wherever that word or that action hit that point, doesn't go down the memory lane and trigger a backlog of past suffering, which could compound your present suffering.
Yes.
So I think the pause is also useful in that respect. Being like a stone, or the pause is useful in that respect as well.
Definitely. Thank you. Yes. Yes. Makes sense. Otherwise, we're just being run like, a mechanism, conditioned behavior is determining everything we say and do. You hear something, you hear the neighbor's cat or dog, and immediately one gets upset rather than just, as you say, pausing and using perhaps a different aspect of consciousness, which is not just reacting, but it's just aware. So no need to fight with that sound, even though one has been fighting with it for, decades or whatever it is. There could be a different kind of response if one, as you say, paused. Or be still. There's this famous, well, I don't know how famous it is, but it struck me when I read it from the Bible, be still and know that I am God. So if you're someone who believes in God, the only way to really know God is to be still first. You can't be rushing around. The thoughts can't be whirring around. There has to be some stillness. Yeah. What else, folks? Thinking only for ourselves, we should think for the whole society. Yeah. If we could, yeah, it's not so easy, is it? But sometimes I think when one reads the paper and sees what's going on, or just reflects, looks at what's happening, it's very sad. So then one does feel, doesn't one, how wonderful if one could do something that was benefiting, I don't know, the children, the people without proper shelter or homes, people who have to work long hours in very difficult conditions and are not paid properly. One wishes one could help a whole bunch of people. And also the well-off or rich people who are just deeply unhappy for various reasons. Yeah, one sometimes wishes one could help a whole bunch of people, no? And then one realizes one is very limited. One cannot do much right now. But maybe we could do something. Or at the very least, as Dalai Lamaji says, at least not harm others. Stop harming others. If we are harming them in some way, try and stop that. So if your kitchen is crawling with vermin, with cockroaches, what do? Do you stop harming them? Again, there's a difficult question there. How to deal with if you have a lot of cockroaches or termites, say, in your cupboards. You want to protect your cupboards, your books, your everything, then what do? Can we live life without harming others? Can be quite difficult, can't it? Yeah. People here, Tushita, anyone?
I just want to get some more clarity.
So
when we talk about the last verses we read on the law, being the law, and karma, when we talk about intention as central,
yes,
and that sometimes the actions we do is dependent on the intention. That is clear. That the karma you accrue is related to the intention of the action rather than the action itself. That we can understand. Sometimes you don't act, but you have the intention.
right.
So here, Shantideva is trying to suggest that even when you have intention, if you don't act on it, you don't accrue the karma.
You don't accrue, you do not collect a full karma, a complete karma. But even if you just have angry thoughts or thoughts to strangle someone and don't do anything about it and actually smile at them, and give them a chocolate in the evening for some reason, but you actually want to strangle them, your intention is you would love to, then that's creating a lot of mental karma, which will create suffering for you. Even though you smile at them, but inside you want to strangle them or hurt them, that's negative karma. But it's not the complete action, obviously, of strangling someone, because that's the very, very powerful karma of killing. But even the thought to kill someone or harm someone or abuse someone or put someone down is powerful mental karma. Such thoughts have effects, definitely. You can tell, actually, harmful thoughts, if we have enough of them, they're very destructive. Just like a lot of harmful thoughts, thoughts of anxiety or insecurity, fear. very harmful. Thoughts is what is, you could say, thinking concepts are what keep us in samsara, keep us in cyclic existence. Thoughts, and then what comes out of thoughts, the actions, the body and speech that come out of that, is what keeps us revolving. Oscar Wilde has raised her hand from the distant past. Haji, Oscar Wilde, also known
so
as
this is
Anushri.
this is in relation to what you just said. So Kay often spoke about the two capacities of the human mind. One is the
Who
thought mind, like
who spoke about
Krishnamurti.
this? Krishnamurti.
Yeah. Krishnamurti often, so children are coming back, so there will be a lot of noise in the background.
No
Anyway,
problem.
so like, yeah. Uh, so Krishnamurti often spoke about the two capacities of the human mind. One is the thought mind, which is like acquiring knowledge, experience, and another capacity of the human brain is the movement in not knowing, which we hardly acknowledge. Now, the thought mind. Obviously it has it is essential, it is indispensable to our survival. We cannot live without it, but it has like limits to its applicability, like how much but we constantly overstep this, and we try to, like, in our attempts to whatever, like achieve our goals and all that. So now in this context only, uh, so when we embark on a train of thought, we think that it has to lead to a definite destination. And I will just read out what I didn't understand. So this is why Krishnamurti so often says, the means defines the end. Indeed, the means is the end. We must look elsewhere beyond the thought mind. So what does that mean? Like, the means defines the end, or the means is the end. What does that sentence mean?
Do you have any idea yourself? I know I always put
No.
your questions back to you, but this is my bad habit, my conditioning. I don't know, I have some strange karma with you, Oscar Wilde, that I always put your questions back to you. So what do you think it means? You're an intelligent young woman. What do you think about this?
I feel like the journey which you undertake in any life, and it leads to a definite destination. So, like, for instance, like I feel like, for instance, if your intentions, whatever your intentions are, that will transform into the result at a later date. For like the means, the journey is the, I don't know how to put it in words. I can't think of the right words are not coming to me right now. I mean, like, I'm not able to try.
Okay. Say you want someone in your office, you're jealous of them, you would like to have the position they have, but you don't have it. So you use various means, like talking against them, complaining about them to the boss and to other people, things like that. You're using those means, okay, to undermine this person whose job you want. So in that sense, are your means defining some kind of end? What end do you think you will achieve through those means?
Yeah,
You see?
yeah. So in that, yeah,
You may get the
exactly.
job.
So
You may get that job, but then what have you
at
become?
what cost?
Yeah.
Yeah.
At what moral cost, or cost to your integrity? So maybe it means something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thought mind, yes, that leads us into many entanglements. Remember what
Yeah.
Trungpa says is very important when he speaks of the power of the flickering thoughts. Always remember that phrase. Things start as a flickering thought, which you can hardly catch, and before you know it, it's built up, it's kind of debris and all kinds of things have been caught up in it, and it becomes a wave, it becomes a tsunami of deep, powerful emotion, or all sorts of confusion and destruction come through a tsunami. But it starts with a lot of little waves, building up and then joining together, and then they become something very destructive. Like a band, like a gang. like a gang of people. And one guy has a bad thought, he decides to raise slogans abusing someone, and then these other people join in, right? Before you know it, you have a band of thugs going around harming and killing people, or destroying shops. So thoughts can be like that, no? Whether they're destructive thoughts or lustful thoughts or jealous thoughts or anxious thoughts, any kind of thoughts. Yeah, good point. Someone else? Nitya again? Or put your hand up if you want to ask. This is the rule here. Nitya, have you forgotten to put your hand down, or you put it up again?
No, I put it up again. May I ask?
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah.
It's a follow-on from Naveen's question, I think.
Good.
About how do you, so in the Buddhist tradition, if you have generated like a bad karmic seed through thought, let's say somebody has hurt you and you haven't responded, but you have felt hurt, and as a result, you've cursed them in your mind. And that in effect has some negative energy and so on. But later you feel bad about it.
Yeah.
How do you roll that back? Because in Christianity, for example, there is this concept of praying for people or penance and so on. But how do the Buddhists think about this?
Good question. I think maybe you haven't heard the four powers, yeah, the four remedial powers. Maybe you haven't heard this from me before, but it's been mentioned many times. The four powers, or the four, what are they called? Opponent powers is often what they're called. So if one has created negative thoughts, words, actions, which we do on a daily basis, a really sincere, good practitioner will every evening confess. How do we confess in Buddhism? Not just, saying Buddha, say, forgive me, not like that, but we first generate some regret, of course, some regret at what we have said or thought or done. And then we take sincere refuge again. We put our trust in our Buddha nature, in Buddha, in our goodness, in our potential goodness, and so forth, and in compassion, especially. Why compassion? Because usually what we regret is having done some harm to somebody or to ourselves. So, of course, both usually. So then we generate compassion for oneself and others. Then the third power is to actually engage in a powerful remedial action itself, which can be meditating on compassion intensely. There are specific practices in Mahayana Buddhism, like recitation of a 100-syllable mantra. And those who do that very assiduously do 100,000 of those mantras. It can take 2 to 3 months. Then 100,000 prostrations to the Buddhas. Again, that can take 2 to 3 months. Or it can be just done regularly on a daily basis. Some chanting, some practice of the mantra or prostrations, say 50 or 100 a day or 35 a day or whatever. There are many practices that you engage in. So that's the third power, the power of the actual remedy. So we have the power of regret, the power of refuge, the power of the remedy, and then the fourth is the power of the promise, or the power of the resolution, as much as possible not to do those actions again. If one cannot refrain from them at all, completely, then one at least says, okay, I'm going to try and refrain from harsh speech, let's say, for the next few days. The next 3 days, I'm not going to abuse people like I usually do. I'm not going to abuse the neighbor when their dog barks or when their garbage, overflows on the street, whatever it is. I'm not going to abuse them. And then we try and keep that for 3 days, and then build up until we can say, I'm not going to use harsh speech. So the four things: regret, refuge, actual remedy itself, and then the resolution, as much as possible, not to engage in it again. You can see this is a very complete kind of remedial action. It's not just saying, oh, it's not good, I feel sorry Buddha, or something. So remedial action can involve a lot of things. Don't have to be totally traditional. Remedial action can also sometimes be, isn't it, to go and say sorry to someone. that you have hurt, you could actually sincerely apologize. That would be a kind of remedial action as well. As long as it's not just done for show, it's based on sincere regret, then an apology could be very healing and beneficial for all concerned. So like that. Very
That's exactly the same as how the sacrament of confession in Catholicism goes about it.
yeah, regret, refuge, actual remedy, and then resolution.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, they seem to be on a good track, I would say. Yeah. So it's not just about going into the confession box and saying, Father, I have sinned, as they have in the movies or in the jokes. It's more.
No. Yeah, no. These are the 4 stages. I mean, you go out of a sense of regret or guilt or shame or something, which takes you to that confession box, and in there you sort of make a resolution not to do the same thing again, and then the priest sends you away with penance, which is usually to pray, a kind of set list of, kind of like the mantras you were saying, like you say X number of Our Fathers or Hail Marys and so on, and then you resolve never to do this again, and you really try not to.
Yeah, if it's, as my teacher says, if the regret is really powerful and strong, then the purification is very, very powerful and strong. If it's a kind of lukewarm regret, then okay, I don't know, but I'm going to go and confess it anyway. But if it's very strong regret, then the purification becomes very strong. Makes sense, yeah? Makes sense. So there are ways, yeah. If there were no ways to purify our mind of negative karma, we would never get liberation or enlightenment. There would be too much from our beginningless lives, because we're not just confessing what we've done in this life, we're confessing what we've done in beginningless lives. So, of course, we can't remember most of it, right? But we can be sure that if there has been beginningless lives, we have done everything. We've done everything, unspeakable things. So that's why this really, the really good practitioners, they do a lot of confession, a lot of purification practices every day, morning and evening if possible. Yeah.
Thanks, Kabirji.
Thank you. Good question. Does it all boil down? Oh, hold on. I read today we should focus on the removal of the desire to kill. Okay, good. Does it all boil down to how aware can one be? Is awareness a scale to judge spiritual progress? Absolutely, Chirag bhai. Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head, as we say in English. यही है. जितना सतर्कता होगा, जितना जागरूकता होगा, उतना ही आगे बढ़ेंगे हम लोग. Absolutely. Without awareness, we're just like machines, just doing the same habitual patterns again and again without thinking about it, without correcting any defects. Yeah. Minoti ji. Yes.
Hanji Kabirji. So I was just pondering upon the power of regret, refuge, remedial action, and resolution, and finding that it's like the third noble truth, right? That there is a possibility of ending all suffering.
Yes.
And it is because of this fact of impermanence that Buddhism talks of, that there is because of impermanence, there is a possibility that even our cognitive obscurations and our other obscurations can be impermanent, because otherwise
can you just explain to beginners what you mean by cognitive obscuration?
Ouch, I put my foot into it.
You certainly did. You put your mouth into it, actually.
I put my mouth into it. What did they say? Be like wood.
You've heard this from Geshe-la hundreds of times, so you should know it.
I know, I'm being tested now.
बिल्कुल. ऐसे थोड़ी cognitive obscuration बोलेंगे, trying to impress us or what?
No, it's just it's Geshe-la's voice, which is in our consciousness now. It's so strong that it
Your
just comes
master's
out.
voice. Yes, your master's
His
voice.
master's voice. It's really like the HMV, that it's just
So
there.
now you have to explain what you mean by what does
Oh my
cognitive
God.
mean? You can take apart those two words, and that will help.
Yeah. So I think cognitive is something that you can, cognitive has got to do with comprehension.
I don't know. You tell me. What's the root of cognitive? Cogno, cognoscere, Latin. Probably in Sanskrit too. Gna, jnan, jnana.
Gyan. So,
There's behavioral obscurations and there's cognitive obscurations, right? Behavioral obscuration would be, behaving badly.
Yeah.
It arises because of the cognitive obscurations, doesn't it? So what are cognitive obscurations? Although I'll have Vishat, who's sitting here, hoping he's not being asked.
Oh God.
Who else is here actually? Pradeep ji?
Yes, I'm sure that Pradeep ji is here and many other.
Or we can ask Sujit ji, who will know simply because he knows what cognitive means very well. So he will tell us.
Coming from the mind, is it that comes from the mind, obscurations?
Anyway, cognitive obscurations means that which really clouds our consciousness so much that it's a veil, like a darkness in the mind, so we cannot see the truth, right?
True.
Layers of veil, layers of ignorance. So cognitive, obscuration is like that, and there are more and more subtle ones. So that even the 10th level bodhisattvas, who are extraordinary beings, even they have a slight cognitive obscuration.
Cognitive obscuration, right.
Hence them being fully enlightened yet. But of course, very quickly they can get rid of that cognitive obscuration and enlightenment. Yes. So sorry, I interrupted you there.
So the thought was just towards impermanence, that it's because there is impermanence that we can even overcome our obscurations. This, like if we, like what we were talking about, regret and having regret, and then having sincere regret, that deep regret. And therefore a remedial action could be taken because of this, I think, nature of things, that there is impermanence. Because if there was no impermanence, we would not be able to work upon our obscurations or our
everything would be stuck. Everything would be stuck.
Everything would be stuck. We would say, this is your nature and this is how you are. But the fact, there is something to celebrate in impermanence, and not just look at impermanence as something that is.
Yes. But is there more than impermanence at work here? If you look at what Buddhists are saying, is it just a question of impermanence?
Also cause dependent arising.
Dependent arising,
Dependent arising, causes and conditions.
We're
applying conditions. We're applying actions of regret and refuge, remedial action and resolution. These are all we're putting in. This is input, right? Which is changing the nature of the situation, which is changing the situation, which of course can only change because of impermanence. If it was something inherent, it could never be changed, right? Because it's inherent. But as you say, things are empty. You didn't say it, you said impermanence, but it kind of pointing towards that deeper level of emptiness. Things are empty of being inherently this or that. They are therefore malleable. They are open to being changed by causes and conditions. They're open to being worked upon by being by
changing the causes and conditions. You can make progress. Otherwise, we would never make any progress. We would just be stagnant and say, this is how I am, and this is how that person is, and there is no scope for change.
Right.
Because sometimes human mind looks at impermanence as something negative or not desirable. Or,
absolutely. Yeah.
We want everything to be so solid and so permanent and forever there as long as we are there.
We bracket it with death, don't we? Impermanence and death.
Exactly.
So people don't like to hear that word death, especially as one gets older. One doesn't like to hear that word a lot, but one has to.
Yes.
that
Yes.
word until it really makes us a bit more sober, let's say. Yeah.
True, and that's not a bad thing. It's
Being sober is better than being drunk, I'm told.
yeah,
Or at
being
least
sober.
drunk.
Yeah, if it can lead to some true happiness or the real.
Okay, question for you. Is there any true happiness in samsara? Yes
In
or no?
samsara, no. No.
Yeah, that's like a multiple choice. Yeah, yes, no. Yeah, yes, no is the correct answer. Why is there no happiness in samsara? This is not
Why
a yes.
is it?
This is
Oh,
not
this is a debate now.
yeah. But why is there no real happiness in samsara?
Because in samsara there is this there we are always have this what would you say, an attachment or an aversion to.
Okay, what's the definition of samsara? That will give you a big clue.
Definition of samsara. Okay, now the
Don't be
debate is
silent.
happening.
I'm going to answer the question. To give an answer.
Okay, where are the
Well,
other NDC students who need to pitch in now?
Where are the other NMC students?
NMC, NDC students.
Fine.
Definition of samsara. Oh,
Oscar Wilde? I don't know. Catherine?
where are the other NDC, NMC students?
Oh, maybe
How-
Sujitva? Are you an NMC or STC student? Huh? Oh, yeah, Vishad here at Tushita.
Yes, Vishad is there. Come on, definition of
Anjali,
samsara.
I did 2 years back, Kabirji.
Don't give excuses. There he is. He's smiling away guiltily. Ab batao.
Kabirji, there is no happiness, real happiness in samsara because we are pervaded by pervasive conditioned suffering. So
Very good, but what is the definition of samsara?
What is the definition?
I know the Hindu definition as per the Hindu scriptures.
Yes, you give me the answer tomorrow, okay?
Yes,
Yeah,
I will look it up, Kabirji.
There's
for
no
sure.
homework. You people, we all get lazy. Yeah, we think, there's another entertaining Zoom session today. Chalo, baitha jaye, suna jaye kya bol raha hai, and then we go
Can I
home.
say something?
Huh?
Can I say?
Can you say
Can
what?
Like
What
I
what
know
do you
this.
think we're going to allow you to say? If you Rishi Valley school teachers think you have a monopoly of questions?
No, not a question. This is related to what you're discussing. So in the Hindu text, it's written Chitta meva hi sansaraha. So Chit is your mind, and
Yeah.
means he is only. And Chitta meva hi sansaraha means your mind itself is sansara. Like sansara is a creation of your mind.
Yeah, that's
So is that
okay.
as
But
per
that doesn't answer my question as to what is samsara. It's a creation of your mind. Of course it is. But then what is the definition of samsara? Everything's a creation of our mind, according to Buddhism.
something which is in the constant movement, something which is constantly moving. Sansaraha.
That's not the proper definition. No. You do your homework and tell me tomorrow. There's no hurry. Try not to die before tomorrow and then give me the answer tomorrow. I'll also try not to die. I'll try not to choke on my bagan tonight or whatever auntie is feeding me. And hopefully we'll all be alive tomorrow. And then we can hear the answers from our erudite, I'm trying not to be too sarcastic, our erudite assembly of NMC students. I don't know how you guys passed your exams, did you pass? Did you cheat? What did you guys do, to pass your NMC? You get your nice certificates, color certificates. I'm joking. I'm sure you all did a lot of good work and very, very painstakingly. Samsara is the beginningless recurring circle of birth and rebirth. Yes, but it's not a complete definition. It's good, better than what we've heard so far, I think, but it's not a complete definition.
And maybe under the control of karma, and illusion.
Oh, now we're getting close. You couldn't wait.
Good.
Didn't allow these good people to do homework, scratch their heads, Okay, I'm going to say now that's the wrong answer. So that people have to do more research. But you might be right, you might be wrong. Are you sure of your answer? You know?
So, Kapilji, is it the cyclical, the cycle of birth and rebirth without an end because of karma and delusions?
I don't know. That's a question. I want answers. So you tell me tomorrow. Be patient. You've got a lot of hints, good hints from people. Maybe it's on Google as well. I don't know. Just Google it. But
no, but that's not be Geshe-la's definition. We have to get to Geshe-la's definition.
Or look at your notes from all of the Geshe-la's teachings.
Yeah.
Or you just get a good Lamrim commentary, a Lamrim text, Lamrim commentary, and it will be there. But it's very important to know what samsara is, because that's what we're trying to overcome, right? So if we don't know the disease, then how do we have any chance of knowing what the remedy might be? You know,
Sure.
what the disease is. If we're a good doctor, if we're a quack, it doesn't matter. You know, we just try to impress the student, the patient, and give them some, you know, useless medicine which doesn't work or which kills them even. So yeah, well, very good, very good. So I'm stopping now. It's 8:22, and I told my aunt I'll be home at 8:30, so it will be suffering for her. So I'd better stop now. Let's dedicate the merit, or if there's any positive energy from listening. So thanks to all the people who are here at Tushita, and thanks to all of you online. May we never be separated from authentic teachings, books, teachers. May those teachers have long and healthy lives, and all their holy wishes be fulfilled. May our lives be most meaningful, not only for ourselves, but for others. And in fact, they're the same thing. To have a really meaningful life needs to be meaningful for others. The life lived just for oneself, it's debatable how meaningful that really is. So may our lives, create some benefit, some light, some comfort and help for others. And ultimately, may we become enlightened so we can lead others to enlightenment. That would be the highest kind of motivation of Bodhichitta, to work for a full awakening in order to fully awaken others or help others to attain that state, out of a sense of deep, deep compassion, seeing the misery and confusion of others. Okay, thanks very much. I hope some of you can also join tomorrow at the same time, 6:30. So take care, everyone, and good night.